this next seminar, just to advise that all who are present, that the seminar is being recorded, so that everybody, by joining, it means you agree to have the seminar recorded, because the seminar is recorded so that it can be available as part of the records of the Academy of African Indigenous Religions, Theology and Arts. I believe General Williams may want to say a word. I see before we go on, before we actually start. Dr. Juku, I recognize you there. Dr. Wallimont, Professor Okolo, Mr. Gajiga, Professor Tolulokwe, I see you have joined. I want to thank everybody.
Yes, sir.
General Williams, would you want to say something before we move on into the seminar itself? I know that many people are still trying to join.
In the academy show, not for General Williams, nothing to say.
Well, that's good enough. So let's see if we can wait a few more minutes. We could start off at 5:05. The presenter would have a maximum of 30 minutes or thereabout to present the paper, and then we will have a question and answer session to clarify, to contribute, to help to illuminate. Dr. Botman, you are welcome.
Good afternoon.
Yes. So we'll be starting in a minute. But before we start, let me introduce the Academy again. Just a couple of things to say about the Academy. The Academy of African Indigenous Religions, Theology and Arts is the brainchild of General Shola Williams, who says to us that, he has nothing to say. I believe he has a lot to say. We just have to acknowledge the brain power and the energy that the old soldier never dies, uses to stimulate our capacity for thinking and for dealing with various things. Dr. Mosulu, you are welcome. Dr. Joy Joseph, you are welcome from South Africa.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So, as I was saying, the Academy is something that is long overdue. Long overdue in the sense that there is no longer any dispute that Africans are the oldest human beings on planet Earth. All efforts, including the recent effort by the Chinese to claim that they were indigenous to China, and to claim a genesis that is different from out of Africa have proved futile, because all the DNAs and the geneticists and all of them have been able to trace the human origin to Africa. And African religions, indigenous religions, if you look very carefully at the various religions that you have in the various regions of the world, you will be able to also see the affinity that they have to Africa, even while they are trying to claim indigeneity to the various locations where they currently exist. You will be able to see that there is so much that is owed to African indigenous knowledge systems, indigenous traditions, indigenous cultures. And for that reason, it is important for Africans to take seriously their own heritage. Many people talk about Pan-Africanism, they talk about decolonization, or even against decolonization. And in most instances, a lot of the discourses are very superficial. Superficial in the sense that most of them try to address an agenda that they did not set. They try to fit their own ideas into a trope, which is externally, the paradigms are set externally, and therefore it's always very difficult for them to find a somewhere to moor their discourses. And, you know, I always retort when some of these things take place. I say that the Yoruba proverb is very, very relevant. They say, "Bí no batan láṣọ, ẹ̀jẹ̀ kì í tán lé èékánná." In other words, if you have lice is some kind of tiny little insect that is parasitic on the human body, sucking the blood and all that. And the Yoruba people say that when there are lice in your cloth and you try to squash it with your finger, definitely there must be blood under your fingernails. Until you get rid of the lice, you cannot get rid of the blood under your fingernails. So a lot of what people are doing, you know, fits into that particular proverb. I use it as an explanatory trope to help to capture much of the challenges that take place within the African intellectual heritage. So what I'm trying to suggest there is that the academy is a necessity. We're having all kinds of challenges. About 2 days ago, someone wrote me and asked me, to which institution is the academy affiliated? When you look at the American Academy of Religion, it is housed within the university. In other words, it is affiliated or you know, situated within an institution. And I believe that must have been the reason why the gentleman was asking the question. And I explained that most of our colleagues, professors of philosophy, professors of history, professors of religion, most of them are scared of having anything to do with indigenous African religions because colonialism has been a success. And we have not taken seriously Bob Marley's injunction that we emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. And because of that, most of them are scared of taking the challenge frontally. Professor Atolade, can you mute your... Professor Atolade,
sorry, sir.
yes.
Sorry, sir.
Thank you. So that's one challenge that we face, but we believe with the discussions we are having, that challenge will be solved very soon. We'll be able to say that this is where we are affiliated. Currently, is still a virtual academy that has a research lab as well as a journal. And we seriously consider it important that the work that we are doing is something that needs to be done. My mother and sister, Professor Mofolabu Ajayi Soyinka, you are welcome. Dr. Omibule, thank you for showing up. We are still trying to find brave colleagues who will help us to find a home for the academy. And the academy has a lot of potential. It's not going to be just any run-of-the-mill academy like many of the academies that we have, many of them dysfunctional or non-functional. Is something that we seriously believe in. So we believe that many of you will take it very seriously and enroll to be serious members and to help us to do so many things that need to be done. With that background, I believe we can go on to the to today's agenda, which is the presentation by our colleague, Dr. Gideon Simon Gajiga. He is affiliated with the Federal University of, please bring up your Wukari, Federal University of Wukari, and he is one of our very active members of the academy. We are happy to have your presentation. So,
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much. Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure to, and a privilege to be a part of this groundbreaking virtual presentation of this article.
Could you a little bit get closer to your mic?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Like I said, it's a privilege and a great pleasure to be asked to present a paper in this virtual meeting about African religion under the Academy of African Indigenous Religions, Theology and Arts. In fact, I would say I am flabbergasted and also surprised that Professor Bewajik will ask me to present a paper. So basically, my topic today is the relationship between African Indigenous religions and artistic expression, a study of traditional art forms and their connection to religious beliefs. African Indigenous religions have long played a central role in the cultural and spiritual life of various African communities, shaping their worldviews, values, artistic traditions. This study basically explores the intricate relationship between African Indigenous religion and artistic expression, with focus on traditional art forms and their profound connection to religious beliefs. An African, within his culture, if you take an African outside his culture, like a fish out of water, through an interdisciplinary approach that combines anthropology, historical, and artistic analysis, the research seeks to illuminate the dynamic interplay between African Indigenous religion and the visual, performative, and material dimensions of the art. The study begins with a comprehensive exposition of African Indigenous religion. It highlights and emphasizing their heterogeneity, the diversity, and the syncretic tendencies and capacity for endurance when confronted with intrinsic influences. Subsequently, it proceeded to scrutinize the intricate characteristics inherent in traditional African artistic expression, encompassing the domains of sculpture, mask, textile, music, dance, and rituals. These artistic forms function as a palpable embodiment of spiritual convictions, serving as a conduit that link the terrestrial and the celestial, the observable and the council. These art forms serve as an intangible manifestation of spiritual beliefs, functioning as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, the visible and the unseen. Ultimately, this study aims to contribute to a deeper understanding of the rich tapestry of African indigenous religions and the integral role of artistic expression within this belief system. By shedding light into the intricate connection between traditional art and spirituality, it underscores the importance of preserving and promoting this invaluable cultural heritage elements for generations to come. The intricate and profound relationship between African indigenous religion and artistic expressions has long been a subject of fascination, of course, scholarly inquiry. In this study, we embark on a comprehensive exploration of traditional art forms in Africa and their deep-seated connection of the spiritual and religious beliefs that have shaped the cultural landscape of diverse African communities. African indigenous religion collectively encompasses a remarkable area of belief systems and practices and has been integral to the identity, values, and worldviews of countless African societies for centuries to come. Language, culture, identity. Language serve as a bridge in transmitting our culture, which help to shape our identity. These belief systems are marked by resilience, adaptability, and rich tapestry of traditions they entail. Central to this cultural heritage are the artistic expression that serve as a tangible manifestation of spiritual faith, bridging the gap between the earthly and the divine, and the visible and the unseen. The study takes an interdisciplinary approach, drawing fields such as anthropology, history, arts, analysis to shed light on the multifaceted nature of this relationship as expounded by one of the scholars, Fernandez. Through an examination of specific case studies from various African regions, we aim to uncover the intricate symbolism embedded within these artworks and the nuances, ways in which they communicate the profound narratives of African indigenous religion. The research venture into the role of artists, craftsmen as spiritual intermediators within their respective communities. It explored the unique responsibilities of crafting objects, performances that possess spiritual potency, often imbued with power to heal, protect, and to communicate with the divine. Of course, in the world of today, marked by globalization and modernity, traditional African belief systems and associated artistic tradition face a lot of challenges. This study addresses the impact of external influences on African indigenous religion and their artistic expression in contemporary context. It seeks to understand how this belief system adapt, evolve, and preserve in the face of change, and the strategies employed to safeguard these valuable, invaluable cultural heritage elements for future generations. Of course, when we look at African indigenous religion, it refers to, it's an embodiment, a totality of traditional belief systems and practices that exist among the diverse ethnic groups of Africa. These religions are rooted in cultural heritage and worldview of African society. One key aspect of the indigenous religion is their oral tradition. Although most white scholars will tell you African history, African culture, and what Africa stands for is being transmitted through oral tradition. But like I agree with Professor Bewaji, Africa does not only transmit the tradition and culture through oral tradition. We have artifacts. We have archaeological artifacts, the carvings, the sculptures, the mask, and some traditional materials of worship that has been preserved over the years. So there is a living history, not just in the intellectual realm, but also in the physical. The relationship between African indigenous religion and artistic expression has been the subject of so many research and publication. Several scholars have explored how arts forms such as mask, sculpture, textile, music, dance are deeply rooted in African culture, religion, and culture. There's no any African society where the use of drum, dance in various forms are not being practiced. That has been part of the African heritage in every society. One of the scholars, Adebi, contend that African arts and religion share a symbolic bond. Traditional African arts serve as a tangible manifestation of religious beliefs and practices. It plays a crucial role in religious worship, evoking spiritual states, and symbolically communicating with the spirit and ancestors through forms like mask, sculptures, textile, and adornments.
That already.
Many of us will readily remember the Oshobo Art Festival, the yearly Oshobo traditional festival, where people come from far and wide, America, Brazil, all over the world, come to witness this special event. It has a lot of tradition. It displays a lot of tradition in so many ways, through their dance, through the textile, through the rituals, which has been an enduring legacy for so many years. You also find, like Akempong provide an overview of African religions seeking to elucidate the diversity of religious beliefs and practices on the continent. They underscore the role of art in African indigenous religion, highlighting how it serves as a means of communication with the spiritual entities. African masks, sculptures, textile, music, dance serve as a virtual and auditory representation of this religion and their values. African indigenous religion also place strong emphasis on communal worship and participation. Artistic expressions such as dance, music, drumming are integral components of religious ceremonies and rituals. The traditional art forms encompassing totems, symbols, carvings have consistently held a crucial position within the realm of African indigenous religion, playing an indispensable role. They serve as a conduit for religious symbolism, conveying profound spiritual meaning and significance. Several scholars, like Blair and Cole, in their writings have shed light on the thematic connection between traditional art forms and the expression of African indigenous religion, offering conclusive evidence of how sculptures, masks, and other virtual intricate artworks are intricately interwoven with African religious practice, rituals, and belief. This can be found, of course, most rituals and ceremonies. They play a significant role in African religion and artistic expression. These practices are deeply rooted in culture and spiritual tradition of various African communities. We also find ancestor veneration. Ancestor veneration is a common practice in many African indigenous religions. Ancestors are believed to possess wisdom, guidance, protective powers. Rituals are usually done to honor ancestors, often involve pouring of libation, long prayers, and offerings made at ancestral shrines or burial sites. These rituals may include artistic expressions such as singing ancestral songs, performing dances, reciting oral narratives that tell the story of the ancestors. Initiation ceremonies for youths and age grades is a prevalent activity within the African tradition of various communities. We also have harvest festivals are celebrated in various African Indigenous religions to give thanks for successful harvest season and to seek blessings for the upcoming planting season. These festivals are marked by joyful celebration, music, dance, communal, and feast. Artistic expressions such as vibrant costumes, rhythmic drumming, and energetic dances are an integral part of these festivities, showing the creativity and the cultural identity of the community. We also find divination ceremonies, which is used to communicate with the spiritual realm. It serves as a go-between the physical and the spiritual, seek guidance or solution to problems. When communities are confronted with challenges of sickness or bad harvest or lack of rain, divination ceremonies are invoked, such as casting oracles, interpreting signs in nature, or consulting oracles through diviner. Artistic expressions such as drumming, chanting, and dancing are often incorporated into these ceremonies. You also have healing rituals are performed to address physical, emotional, and spiritual ailments. The rituals are often involve the use of medicinal herbs, prayers, and spiritual intervention. Artistic expressions such as music, dance, storytelling are employed to create a healing environment, invoke divine powers, and facilitate the restoration of balance and well-being. However, it is important to note that African indigenous religions are incredibly diverse, consisting of numerous distinct traditions across the continent. As diverse as the language and the communities are, so also are the religions. Rituals and artistic expression may vary significantly depending on the specific culture and religious practice of each community. Of equal but complementary importance is the storytelling and narrative, an integral part of African traditional religion and indeed life. Art forms such like murals, paintings, and sculptures may serve as virtual narratives that depict religious myths, creation stories, and historical events. These narratives are not only decorative but also educational, transmitting oral tradition and religious teaching. It is pertinent to mention here that dance and performance is a fundamental element of many African indigenous religion rituals. Dancers often wear elaborate costumes and masks, transforming them into symbolic beings or spirit. The movement, the gestures of dancers are choreographed to convey spiritual narratives, invoke the presence of deities, and convey emotions and intention of the community. Artistic expression in rituals and ceremony foster a sense of communal identity and participation. Community members often collaborate in the creation and the performance of art-related rituals. In African traditional religion, artistic expressions are not merely decorative. They are vehicles for spiritual engagement, storytelling, community of cohesion, and cultural preservation. These expressions are eliminate traditions that continue to evolve and adapt to contemporary contexts while remaining deeply rooted in spiritual and cultural identity of African communities. Here, most of this exposition on how art is being employed in these spiritual and healing practices involve one, symbolism and mythology. Symbolism and mythology are integral to the artistic expression and religion of African Indigenous religion. They provide a rich tapestry of meaning, spiritual significance, and cultural relevance and identity. Symbolism is used to represent abstract ideas, spiritual concepts, and cultural values, while mythology encompasses the collective stories, legends, and narratives that explain the origin of the world, the deities, the relationship between humans and divine. This can be viewed from the following perspective: animal symbolism, sacred objects. You also find the creation of myths. Myths are created around a hero or a personality who has contributed in the community in time past. You also have ancestral mythology. Ancestral worship is a central aspect of many African indigenous religions, and mythology surrounding ancestors play a significant role. Ancestors are believed to have a continued presence and influence in their lives. You also have divine beings and spirit. African indigenous religion encompasses diverse areas of deities, spirit, and supernatural beings. These entities are often associated with natural elements such as rivers, mountains, trees, and are believed to have authority over specific domains. Symbolic representation of this divine being can be found in various art forms such as paintings, carvings, and jewelry. It is important to bear in mind that the symbolism and mythology within African indigenous religion are highly diverse and vary across different cultures and regions. Each community has its own unique set of symbols, myths that reflect their distinct beliefs, values, and historical experiences. The relationship between symbolism, mythology, and artistic expression in African indigenous religion is a fascinating area of study. Cultural and historical context. Cultural and historical context of African indigenous religion and artistic expression are clearly intertwined and have shaped each other over the time. The diverse cultures and rich histories of the African continent have influenced the development of religious beliefs, practice, and artistic tradition. Cultural diversity. Africa is the home of a vast array of ethnic groups, each with its own distinct cultural identity. You also have oral traditions. Oral traditions play a significant role in the preservation and transmission of African indigenous religion and artistic expression. Many religious beliefs, mythologies, and rituals are passed down through generations through oral storytelling, songs, and chants. We also have ancestral influences. Ancestral heritage holds immense importance in African indigenous religion and artistic expression. The reverence for ancestors, their wisdom.
Yes, there's somebody there, Lukman. Call Lukman. Call Lukman.
The historical events, my interaction with other.
Please, can you? Somebody is interfering. Can the mic be muted, please? Mr. Gajika, can you please go on?
Sir? Yes, sir. Historical events, migration, interaction with other communities have also influenced the formation of ancestral lineages and the associated religious practices. Artistic expression often depict ancestors, their stories, and their connection to the living community. Colonialism and transatlantic trade. The colonial period and the transatlantic trade have had a profound effect on African indigenous religion and artistic expression. The arrival of European colonizer brought the introduction of foreign religion and cultural influences, leading to the syncretism of indigenous belief with Christianity and Islam. The forced displacement of Africans through slavery resulted in the spread of African religious practices and artistic tradition, even to the Americas, Brazil, and so many other South American countries, even in America right now, influenced the development of African diaspora religion and artistic expression, such as voodoo, candomblé, and jazz. Resistance and cultural revival. Throughout history, African communities have engaged in acts of resistance against colonialism, slavery, and cultural assimilation. These acts of resistance often involve preservation, revitalization of indigenous religious practices and artistic expression as forms of asserting cultural identity and reclaiming autonomy. Contemporary dynamics. In contemporary Africa, indigenous religions and artistic expression continue to evolve and adapt to the changing social, political, and cultural context. They are influenced by urbanization, globalization, and interaction with other religious and artistic traditions. While some aspects of African indigenous religion and artistic expression have faced challenges and marginalization, there are also efforts to preserve and promote cultural heritage, foster intercultural dialogue, and revitalize traditional practices. The interplay between art, religion, and identity. Interplay between art, religion, and identity is a complex and dynamic relationship that can be observed in various cultural and historical contexts worldwide. In the context of Africa, this interplay is particularly significant as art and religion are deeply intertwined with constructions, sacred atmosphere, and facilitate spiritual communication. Art as a medium of religious expression. Art has long been used as a medium of religious expression in many cultures, including African indigenous religion, through artistic forms such as sculptures, paintings, masks, and rituals. Religious themes and symbolism in art. Religious theme and symbolism often permeate artistic creation, both within religious context and in secular art forms. Artistic representation of deities, rituals, and mythological narratives serves as a means to preserve religious tradition, communicate spiritual ideas, and reinforce cultural and religious identities. Symbols and motifs associated with specific religious beliefs or practices are used to convey deeper spiritual meanings and invoke a sense of shared identity among believers. Art as a vehicle of cultural identity. Artistic expression, including visual art, music, dance, and performance, play a crucial role in formation and preservation of cultural identities. In the realm of African indigenous religious art, art is often deeply rooted in cultural practice, tradition, and history. You also have rituals and performance as an identity markers. Rituals and performances associated with religious practice often serve as a significant markers of identity. These ceremonies and performances, which may include music, dance, costume, storytelling, not only uphold religious belief, but also embodied cultural and communal values. Art as a tool for negotiating and challenging identity. Artistic expression can also be used as a tool for negotiating and challenging identity, including religious and cultural identities. Artists may engage in creative practices that explore and question established religious and cultural norms, address social issues, or reflect individual experiences and perspective. It is important to note that interplay between art, religion, and identity is not static. It can vary across different contexts and individuals. The relationship can be influenced by factors such as historical events, globalization, individual interpretation, and experiences. Additionally, the interplay between art, religion, and identity is not limited to African context, but can be observed in diverse societies and cultures worldwide. Case studies. We have a couple of case studies that mirror what we're trying to elucidate. For instance, the Yoruba religion and Ifa divination in Nigeria, the Gelede mask. In Yoruba culture of Nigeria, the Gelede mask play a central role in their religious practice. These masks are used to elaborate masquerade performance to honor the female deities, particularly Yami Osoranga, who are believed to have immense spiritual powers. The Gelede masks are adorned with intricate designs and symbols. You also have the Akan religion and the Ashanti Akwaba dolls in Ghana. Religion and the Chiwara hairdress in Mali is also another case study. The Dagara religion and sacred groves in Burkina Faso. In the work of Kyomo, he delved into the theme of sacred groves among the Dagara people in Burkina Faso, where sacred groves serve as an outdoor temples where religious ceremonies and rituals take place. Let's also forget the Oshun groves in Oshobo, Osun State, Nigeria. These artworks are believed to facilitate communication between the living and the spirit world, ensuring harmony and prosperity. We also have the voodoo religion and the voodoo flags in Haiti. Voodoo flags, known as drapeau voodoo, are intricately embroidered textiles that depict various spirits, laws, symbols associated with religion. These flags are used in ceremonies to invoke and honor specific spirit. And of course, the sound religion and the rock art in South Africa. Contemporary perspective. Contemporary times, the relationship between African indigenous religion and the artistic expression continue to evolve and adapt to changing social, cultural, and artistic dynamics. This is because traditional art forms and religious beliefs in African societies have always been resilient, adapting in response to various social, cultural, and global influences in contemporary times. This transformation is a testament to the resilience and dynamic nature of African cultures. Let's examine how both traditional art and religious beliefs have evolved and adapted in contemporary African societies. Syncretism and fusion of beliefs. Contemporary African society often exhibit a blend of traditional religious belief and practices with elements of Christianity, Islam, or other global religions. This syncretism reflects a willingness to adopt and to integrate new ideas and spiritual practices while maintaining connection to their heritage. Artistic expression and modernization. Traditional African arts such as sculpture, marks, and textile have undergone modernization and transformation. Artists now incorporate contemporary themes and materials in their artwork. The role of education and globalization. Education and increased exposure to the global world have contributed to the evolution of traditional African arts and religious beliefs. Younger generations have access to a wide range of information and are often more open to incorporating new ideas into their cultural practices. Migration and of course, urbanization have led to cultural exchanges and mixing of different ethnic and religious groups. This has given rise to a new form of artistic expression with religious syncretism as people from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, come into contact and influence one another. Revival of traditional practices. In some contemporary societies, there has been a revival of interest in traditional religious practice and art form. This resurgence is often driven by desire to reconnect with the cultural roots and counter the homogenization of effect of globalization. Economic and political factor. Economic and political factor can also influence the evolution of tradition of art and religious beliefs. And of course, tourism and cultural preservation, which many governments in African countries are falling back to promote cultural tourism, using culture as a way of preserving our culture and also exposing it to the world. And of course, technological advancement, modern technology, including internet, social media, has facilitated the sharing and dissemination of traditional art forms, ritual practice, and artists. Practitioners can reach global audience and collaborate with others around the world. Environmental and sustainability concern. Many contemporary African societies, there is a notable resurgence of interest in traditional beliefs and practices as a response to environmental and sustainability concern. This resurgence involves the incorporation of traditional ecological knowledge into the conservation effort and the use of art to raise awareness about preserving environmental challenges. The journey of integration begins with rediscovery of tradition and a renewed appreciation for cultural heritage. Over time, many societies have seen their traditional art forms marginalized or even endangered as they modernize and globalize. However, a growing realization of value and authenticity carried by these traditions sparked a resurgence of interest. The integration of traditional art form into contemporary culture goes beyond aesthetics. It deeply tied to the idea of cultural identity. Many societies view their tradition as an essential part of their identity, a way of preserving their history and values. By incorporating this art form into modern expressions, individuals and communities reaffirm their cultural roots and assert their identity in an ever-globalizing world. In our findings, several significant findings that shed light on the intricate relationship between African indigenous religion and the traditional artistic expression can be summarized as follows: symbolism and spiritual significance. The Gelede masks of the Yoruba serve as a vibrant representation of the spiritual connection between the Yoruba people and their deities. The masks are adorned with intricate designs that symbolize the power and attributes of the female deities, emphasizing the role of women in Yoruba religious practice. The Kwaba dolls of Ashanti. You also find the Chiwara headdresses in Burkina Faso, rituals and spiritual meditation. The voodoo flags are central to the practice of voodoo in Haiti. These embroidered textiles are used as tools for spiritual mediation, invoking specific spirits and laws during ceremonies. You also have the sacred groups of the Dagaras. These groups are not only places for religious ritual, but also serve as an artistic expression of the spiritual bond between the Dagara people and their land. Adaptation and resilience. The rock art of the San people in Southern Africa showcases the resilience of their spiritual beliefs over thousands of years. These ancient paintings and engravings continue to provide insight into the San's shamanic experiences and their connection to the spirit world. The challenges in modern context, globalization and modernity. Across the case studies, the impact of globalization and modernity on the practice of African indigenous religion and traditional art form is evident. Increased urbanization, religious syncretism, and commodification of art have posed challenges to the preservation of traditional beliefs and practices. We cannot highlight this without mentioning the role of artists as a spiritual mediators. Artists and craftsmen emerges as a central figure in the preservation and transmission of spiritual knowledge within their communities. They are not only skilled artisans, but also spiritual mediators entrusted with creating objects of great significance and power. Diversity and syncretism. The diversity of African indigenous religion is remarkable. Each case study highlights unique practices and beliefs, emphasizing the multiplicity of spiritual tradition on the continent. Syncretism, the influence of external religion and culture, such as Catholicism in Haiti, is evident in the syncretic aspect of some African indigenous religion. Recommendation. Based on the findings of this study, we would like to make the following recommendation. Encourage the documentation of traditional art forms, rituals, beliefs through collaboration between researchers, local communities, and cultural organizations. This documentation should include written records, photographs, videos, and oral histories to create a comprehensive archive. Museum exhibition, promote the inclusion of African art and artifacts in museums and cultural institutions, both within Africa and globally, to showcase the richness of African indigenous religion and their artistic expression. Education and awareness. Advocate for the inclusion of courses on African indigenous religion and traditional art forms within educational curricula, both at the primary and tertiary institutions, to foster a deeper understanding of these cultural elements using the students. Public outreach should also be promoted. Community involvement, empowering the community to take active part or play an active role in the preservation and the transmission of their cultural heritage. Artistic support, cultural exchanges, artist residencies, establish artist residencies that allow artists and craftsmen to work in different cultural contexts, fostering cross-cultural understanding and collaboration. Policy and advocacy, cultural preservation policy should be made by government to help preserve our culture, intellectual property protection, also advocated. Of course, renew research and scholarship, continue research to encourage further academic research and scholarship on diverse aspects of African religion. Publication and dissemination, very, very important. Ethical consideration, respect for communities. Be sensitive to this community cultural sensitivity while advocating training. Promote cultural sensitivity training for researchers, scholars, and professionals working in fields related to African indigenous religion. In conclusion, the intricate relationship between African indigenous religion and artistic expression is a testament to the profound cultural, spiritual richness of the African continent. Through the study of traditional art forms and their connection to religious beliefs, we have delved into the depths of African spirituality, symbolism, and enduring power of artistic expression. And of course, symbolism and spiritual communication, rituals and meditation, adaptation and resilience, cultural diversity and secretism, challenges and opportunities. The impact of globalization and modernity present both challenges and opportunities. While external influences pose threat to traditional practice, they also create space for cross-cultural exchange and collaboration. Conclusively, we can say the relationship between African indigenous religion and artistic expression is a dynamic, multifaceted one that continues to shape the cultural and spiritual landscape of Africa. The artistic heritage embedded within this tradition is not only a source of pride and identity, but also a bridge to the spiritual world, connecting past, present, and the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very succinct presentation. And you have kept within the time allotted. So we are going to have our colleagues. At a point in time, we had about 30 online, who joined, which is quite good. So, our colleagues, can you please use the there is that thing there where you can show interest by raising up your hand. You will see the reactions button so that we can recognize you. Now, before the question and answer session, let me say that what our colleague has done has been a wonderful presentation on the fact that all aspects of life are interconnected. Religion is one significant aspect of life that actually brings together virtually every other aspect of life, because humanity has found ways of recreating itself, recreating culture, managing, manipulating, domesticating, projecting, and controlling both nature, nurture, and existence. And religion, you will all agree with me, is one significant component of that. And I hope you will all join me to say thank you to Mr. Gajika for that particularly wonderful and clear presentation, where he went over the various issues that needed to be discussed, especially within the relationship between art and religion. And you will find that art is in all religions, and it's a very significant way of recording and documenting and preserving various elements of religion. Thank you very much. I see Ulrich Kleinhempel has his hand up. Please, so that we can accommodate many people, can we make if comments at all, can we make it very brief? And then if there are questions or elaborations, can we be very brief? Thank you. Ulrich?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
We cannot hear you.
What is going on here?
Oh my, I cannot hear. It seems that your connection is a little bit weak. We cannot hear you.
Oh, is it now better? Now possible?
Mr. Gajika, can you hear?
I can barely hear him.
Can you hear me? Can anybody
Yeah, I can hear
me?
you.
Yes, but we
I can
can't
hear you.
hear Ulrich.
Yes. Yes, is now?
Oh my. Well, try and fix it and then we'll come back to you. Dr. Omibule, can you unmute? Dr. Omibule, can you unmute? We will come back to you. Ulrich, can you fix your line or, whatever the challenge is so that Professor Omibule, we see your hand up. I'm having heavy rainfall here, but I can see and hear everybody except Ulrich Hempel. And okay, Dr. Omibule has unmuted. Can you please ask your question, Dr. Omibule?
Thank you, everybody. Good evening from Nigeria, sir. Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. As you are saying, I should unmute myself. It was difficult initially, so I think you helped me from your hand.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I am. That was a very interesting presentation. But like every other presentation, we always have remarks, reactions, so that at least the work in progress can get, exceedingly better. First of all, I want to appreciate the presenter because sufficient display of interest in the subject of discourse, was obvious in that presentation. And I think we have to applaud him because not many people are really interested. Well, by my own, going by my own experience here in Nigeria, when I see people like Mr. Gajia trying to do, a thing like this.
Dr. Omibule dropped off.
Hello?
Okay, now I think I have it. Yes.
Hello?
Are you back?
Yes, hello. Yes, it worked.
I'm hearing
Something is wrong with
everybody.
my headphones, maybe. Yes, thank you very much for the chipping me in
Hello?
again. Yes,
Dr.
can you hear me?
Omibule, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm hearing you, except you are not hearing me.
Well, we used to see you on the pin-up, but we don't even see you, and then we couldn't hear a thing. Yes, please
Hello?
try to be, because we may have technological
Hello?
challenges. Can you please be
Hello?
very brief? Yes, go ahead.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sir. To help Mr. Gajia's work, I think we have to point out some things, and then to also appreciate him too. We also have to point out some ideas that he has made reference to. He used the work, the phrase art-related rituals. Then my remark to that is that that would need to be properly explained. Art-related rituals. So there are so many rituals. Virtual rituals are related to art, and rituals in itself is a art form. So when you say art-related ritual, it's like, that particular concept has to be properly framed, because rituals are also, a kind of art form. Then I want to advise that for Mr. Gajia's work to really be able to come up with something significant, it will have to be performance specific. I don't know whether that is the way to put it. It will have to focus on a specific traditional experience, maybe a particular cultural form, maybe in a particular community that is that is largely understudied. Because what he has said so far, you come across them in different forms, in several books. And many of these books, dating back to even early 19th century. So I have a feeling that for him to really be able to do something significant, he will have to make this work look better than an overview of so many works that have been done, in this area. So if it's possible for him to just go into a particular, maybe a particular ritual performance that is largely understudied, then all that he has said so far can then be used as the literature review for it. And then that particular unique experience that people are yet to know about, then will form his own focus, which of course will now be a very good addition to knowledge already accumulated in this particular field of study. That's my contribution. And of course, also I would also like to talk about modernity, because it talks about modern influences on African traditional culture and practices. That's again, it's not a new discovery, but in what way can he, show is a target reader that modern influences are, of course, a significant factor to consider in a particular traditional practice in a particular, maybe remote corner of his village, or something. And that's the kind of idea I think I have, to share with him. So once again,
Yes.
I applaud him for that brilliant presentation. So thank you
so
for
much.
extending the invitation to me too.
Thank you. Ulrich seems to have fixed the challenge there.
Yeah, thank you. I fixed the challenge. Thank you very much. I would like to make it brief. We can observe in the 20th century and in now, traditional art and rituals of African and Afro-Brazilian tradition are transformed into folklore. It even reverberates in literature. They are then perceived as well somehow entertaining, and it is all spectacular and whatever, but not a glimpse of the meaning is there. It's a process of secularization or of loss of knowledge. To read this, it has been said that oral tradition has been frowned upon. We may remind that Greek philosophy, Indian philosophy was all transmitted for a very long time orally, and oral tradition was given precedence. But without the access to this oral tradition, without its documentation in writing, the meaning of certain figures, of aesthetic motives is completely lost, and then it's just decorated. And here, I think, is the conclusion then that has to be added. It is, of course, religious art and spiritual art, but to become meaningful, one has to be able to read the signs. They are not self-evident. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's take another one, Professor Mofolabo Ajayi-Soyinka.
Thank you. And I also thank Mr. Gajiga for his presentation. Going back to what I think Dr. Mibule said, what Mr. Gajiga was trying to do was this very broad overview of religion and arts in Africa. It's broad in space, it's broad in scope. So, but I think this underscores the what religion meant in many African cultures outside the imported religion, that it caters for very many aspects of life. Yes, he mentioned the arts, performance, even philosophy and so on. So it's a broad, and this is for what this academy is trying to do. I think it's okay to have this broad overview, and then we go into in-depth areas and update. Yes, some researches have been done in the past, but these need to be updated too. What, particularly if we say, and I believe that is what is happening, what happened, that religion, our traditional religions served us at that time. It catered for our needs, for our worldview. But what is what can we make of our religion, traditional religion in contemporary times? How can we bring these religions to serve the needs of our contemporary situation and let them be meaningful? That's one, I think. Then I have a question. I don't know if I heard you right or there was some interference. Did you say that Gelede performance is a form of religion or ritual? Same thing with voodoo. I would like some little bit of explanation over there. Thank you very much.
Yes, the wonderful comments. Would you want to react to the three comments, questions? Some of them may actually be helping you to make your point, but you may want to clarify one or two things before we take the next round of comments, questions. Mr. Gajiga?
Yes, in response to Professor Ajayi, the Gelede mask, is used, in the performance, masquerade, as a masquerade performance. It's not a religion. It is a mask worn in performance to honor female deities, particularly Yami Oshoranga, as stated in my paper. So it's a mask, women wore during ritual, during masquerades as they perform in honor of female deities, which amplify the centrality of the female deity in African traditional religion, basically. Then the voodoo doll, like I mentioned, used by the Haitians in their practice, is also part of the symbols of the materials used, the dolls, the invocation, which is part of the religious practice, part of the religious ceremonies during their procession. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. What about Professor Ajayi actually helped to clarify the idea that your presentation was more like a general survey. And it suggested that such surveys are at times very, very useful and very necessary. And if, it's, I had a situation in a classroom environment when I was discussing myths and symbolisms with, my students, and one of them took offense that I likened the cross or the Bible or the wedding band to an instrument, you know, just a form of symbolism. And I try to explain, you know, that the issue is that religion packaged in a particular way may not help those who are of that faith to see beyond what they have embraced, in order to see similarities, you know, in what other people do. It's just like, you know, it's the season of graduation ceremonies. My university here, where I retired, just had their own graduation. There is no difference between, you know, when somebody learns a trade and the person does a passing out parade. It's just, you know, symbolism is exactly the same thing in a different format. And within the various religions and culture and art, you know, what you have done is very helpful. So the idea that Dr. Mibule was saying is that probably, you know, if you are able to identify some specifics which have not been done, that might enrich the discussion. And I thought that was quite clear from Professor Mofolabo Ajayi-Soyinka's contribution. And I also think that also resonated with the comment by Ulrich Kleinhempel, you know, the second comment there. I don't see, are there any other person would like to comment or say something? I see so many people have joined us. I want to thank them very, very much. Well, you know, probably while others are thinking about the issues, I would have loved to see the connection between arts, religion, and education, especially religion, symbolism, arts, and so on in educational spaces, in science and technology, in you know, entertainment, in recreation, and all that. Because everything is interconnected, and the interconnections at times are missing to many of us, because we tend to look at things using specific spectacles and then differentiating things which are interconnected. I would have loved to see that element integrated into the discussion. Especially when you look at, Dr. Mibule mentioned the fact that rituals themselves are artistic. You know, in a sense, that's a very significant thing. And rituals help, art help to document how people see the world. You know, if you read Dio Fagunwa's Ogbojo Oderinugbo Irumale, and you see some of those things that happen there, and how, you know, those would have been sci-fi if they had been translated into contemporary you know, art form in the scientific, because what he was doing there was futuristic, was beyond, you know, what was possible at the time, which we now use all kinds of things to do, you know. Yeah. Any other comments, questions, either about the presentation or about the academy itself? Currently, we have two presentations lined up, and I want to thank, you know, people who have responded so positively to submit their abstracts and bio for the next in the series. What we do in the academy, by taking one single paper in a presentation like this, is to have deep engagement with such presentations beyond the superficiality of what usually take place in conferences, where you travel thousands of kilometers to present for 5-10 minutes, and the feedback is usually not that good. But what we are doing here, we believe, is very, very rich. I could see Professor Ajayi Soyinka's hand up again. I will take that before I take Dr. Dikeledi Jacobeth, whose hand is also up. Prof?
Yes, sir. First, I wanted to call attention to the discussions on chat that Professor Ulrich had posted. He mentioned the issue of symbolism, and I just want to, agree with what he said, that we need to know the mythology surrounding these symbolic art forms and performances, because symbols, depend on the context. So what this symbol means, here is a phone, if you take it to another context, or we weave another story around it, it will mean something else. And I think that is what we find in all religions. I mean, you gave the, Professor Beraji, you gave the example of your designating the cross and the wedding band and so on as symbols. They are symbols, because you see a cross, you say, oh, that must be a Christian something. But then it depends on which type of cross. So the Red Cross is different from the Christian cross. The moon, which represents, is it the crescent? Sorry, the crescent, the moon, which signifies most of the time Islamic religion, or a festival coming, means something else in another culture entirely, or in another context. So that's what I wanted to call attention to. Now, talking about, you said you would want us to discuss religion to education. And I think, I think that's part of the problems that we've been having, why we have neglected indigenous religions for so long. Initially, because when, especially the Christian missionaries came, they wanted to completely erase our form of religion, to the extent of saying, oh, these Africans, they had no religions, or, oh, they worship the devil. And their concept of the devil is just amazing. So they did that in order to impose their religion on us very successfully. And to a larger extent, yes, they did. But now we Christians, contemporary African Christians, are now taking that religion, that Christian religion, and inserting it within our own context of worship, religious worship, and so on. And I find that very interesting. That's an area that we can look into. And one thing, I think the early days of our scholarship within the Western educational context, we've been PhD students or boarding scholars had been encouraged to look into our tradition, our indigenous religions, as object of curiosity and maybe study to explain, but not as a form of keeping faith of something that is that people believe in, that can do something for them, that can solve their problems, just as Christianity or Islamic religion does. And I think that's another thing we need to look into and just develop.
Thank you very much. That's It also ties with another comment which I see online, where Dr. McCoy was talking about the impression about voodooism, that it seems to be tied to evil intent and all that, which is, you know, anybody understanding the revolution in Haiti would not, you know, agree with that, because voodooism, you know, was one of the very powerful foundations of the Haitian Revolution to overthrow the oppression and the evil of slavery, and it's also part of what has kept them, in spite of the challenges that they do have in Haiti. They are not top on the list of the most violent societies in the world, simply because of their spirituality and their understanding of humanity. So the point is that the educational aspect that we are talking about is very, very important for us to understand the twists, you know, in indigenous African spiritualities and symbolisms, and the equation of them with evil and, you know, magic with occult, forgetting that when you do exorcism in Catholicism, you know, what is exorcism if not, you know, a form of magic, you know, if you want to look for equivalents. Dr. Dikeledi, yes. You need to, yes.
Good, just unmute. Thank you so much. I would like to really thank my colleague, Simon Gideon. You know, this topic is very close to my heart. I come from a background of a community of apartheid or apartheid, where there was division of various cultures, where people could practice their own cultures, and then they had to be reformed to change their own being, which happened to be my great-grand. I'm third generation of that. And I kept on asking questions, you know, why do we go to the Indians, where there's the Indian center, and then there's the colored people of colors, people that look like me, you know, a mixed breed of a Khoisan German, whatever you want to call it. Then we go to the community of blacks, which where you get in South Africa, we've got 11 languages that are available in South Africa. I'm speaking this because I got invited to a lecture at Ovidius University that has to do with this kind of, or the conference that you are doing. And I'm glad that this kind of academy exists. I'm not gonna comment, I'm just adding, I just want to add on to appreciate what is this seminar all about. And I think maybe the next time when I also come to the seminar, be able to sort of contribute something. Hence, I called a colleague who's a professor in the university where I come, the province where I come from, the Northwest Province, Professor Faisal Frieks. He's in theology. You know, as a young growing person, I had this, you know, when you become a teenager, you start asking questions about your background, your culture, your identity. So so that when you know you have a perspective of your own identity, you are able not to be colonized and be fooled by any of this sort. When you say, I'm a Christian and I'm following this order, then you know which order you are following. But this, I am homeschooled by a mathematician from Regensburg University, where Pope Benedict Ratzinger come from, Regensburg University. With the Reformation they had, they were recalled, of which like now we had this COVID challenges, and people have been recouped and recalled to their country to add value. And what I want to say, this kind of a conference is what we have when we had a university in the Northwest. It used to be called Potchefstroom University. In Potchefstroom, after the Second World War, people that participated in the war came back with their own thinking, their own religion, their own identity, their own gods. You know, it's almost like the Tower of Babel, where everybody has their slave, everybody, and the slaves, they come in different order. So I come from the order where my great-grand was a German, half Tswana. And I asked myself, if she's a Motswana, she comes from the kingdom of Hurutsi tribe, which is on the border post of South Africa and Botswana. How come that she could even speak this native language, and yet she's white? And how does a white person get into a Black community? And later on, out of these questions that I asked, I was told that this happened this way. After the war, some of the Germans that came, that were in the Northwest, they came with a Lutheran faith. And with the Lutheran faith, they asked for a piece of land. And now this is where the experience of what my grandmother is all about. She knows the Lutheran faith. My grandfather, I'm talking maternal, I'm talking about my maternal parents. And on the maternal grandfather, he was a chief in Greater Taung. This is where you get the cradle of mankind, where there's a 3-year-old skull of a monkey that was found by I think you know it. It was a Flemish Flemish person, and also professor from the University of Wits University. You took the skull from the kingdom and put it at the University of Professor Tobias, and put it at the university. This is the skull of where Raymond Dot, the man that wrote the paper on this identity from the skull of a 3-year-old Raymond Dot. They were actually excavating and looking to come and create a mine. And that mine, it was a mine, we had the land deposit in our land. And they also had marble, they also had slate in their land, the land of my grandfather. So my grandfather said, when you grow up, because you see, when I went to live with my grandparents, and I just want to instill a foundation and also early childhood development, how important it is. If you don't know your heritage, your identity, you are lost. You can be a doctor, professor, whatever you want to call it. If you don't know who you are, you've lost your identity. And I think this this conference is all about, or either the academy is all about. I am impressed. I never thought that something like this will come, that I have to talk about it. When I left my parents' house, mom and dad's house, to go and live with my grandparents, maternal, because my grandparents, they were Anglican, they had land, and they lived in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, in Soweto. So their land, which is in a Transvaal, when you go to this Baragwanath, where Baragwanath is, and Mr. Baragwanath, who was a British soldier and a British businessman who built Baragwanath, they raised funds during the Second World War. So my parents had that, they believed in the Anglican religion. And my paternal, my maternal, they are Anglicans, they are Catholics. So, you know, I had both part of, from a babyhood where you get baptized at a 3 months old in the Anglican church. And when you turn 3 years, now you are already 3 years, which is early childhood development, which is what you can see. A child that is already 3 years is like a computer box. They know exactly what happens around them. So at the age of 3 years, I was taken just like that skull in Greater Taung that actually made me to realize who my elders are in my family. And I'm happy to see that there's an elder heading this conference, because if we need that intellectual property, we need to learn, we need to share the knowledge that we have, so that we are able to assist this generation Y or the generation Z, so that they should know their originality. So going forward with that, as I said, as a 3-year-old, I had to, when parents divorced, I had to go to my grandparents, and this is where I was taken to the cradle of mankind at the age of 3 years, where I was taken into the cave where there are monkeys. And those caves, they were said, now you are no longer going to speak the language of your dad. You are going to speak Setswana Saborre, the original Setswana, where it originated from. So in Setswana, on my maternal side, my mother is of the monkey clan. So the monkey clan, the small monkey is my grandmother. But the big monkey, the man monkey, which is almost like, I don't know whether you call it a gorilla or whatever you want to call it, but it's a male monkey, which stands and makes sure that nothing bad happens. So my grandfather put me as a child at the door of the cave. And he said, now, you are going to greet in Setswana. We are now, when you say Dumela, you don't go to the, we put you down, you sit, you listen. When we say Dumela, you must be able to greet in your language. And we are going to prove and test if you can speak your mother tongue eloquently. And I, as your grandfather, of which your mother is my daughter, I really want to instill that culture that you should learn. Nothing happened to me with the monkey. When I say Dumela, it says ho, 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 ho. It means when it says ho, 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 it means we know you, we welcome you into the family. Because in our totems, we've got various totems. The totem of my father is elephant. So maybe when I'm speaking now, I might be sounding very loud because I'm matriarch in the elephant clan, which is the clan of my dad. So I was able at the age of 18 or 19 to look back into my father's clan. I could only see when I saw my father, I was at the age of 10 years. And this gentleman really helped me because he worked for Demlin College, which is a distant learning organization, meaning that when his parents gave the land to Mr. Demlin and Baragwana, my grandfather, their land in Everton and even in Soweto, it's owned by Damelin College. And the son who happens to be my dad, Herbert Meletse, worked for Damelin College. And he went to all the SADC region to recruit because education was not allowed. People could not even develop themselves. And now, because they didn't want them to know who they are, they just wanted people to listen to what they say. So in closing, what I want to say, before I knew Nelson Mandela, I knew my aunt first, who was the 20 nurses that left South Africa with Oliver Tambo, going to Tanzania to help Julius Nyerere. On the list, when you look, number 19, it is my aunt, the surname is spelled wrongly. You don't do that. It is, when you say Tunde, you need to know that it's Tunde. When you say it's Gajiga, you need to understand the name and the originality of a person. And this is where morality, ethics, and values come from. So from the religion point of view, I'd like you to, going forward, to also direct, and I'm sure my colleague Fazal would be able to also add some value as well. We are very curious, we are very excited, and we are saying, thank you for this wisdom of organizing such a thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me use the most I know about Setswana, Dumela. Dumela Ma. Yes. I was in Botswana for 1 year in 2002 to 2003.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and I
You entered Botswana through South Africa, or you entered Botswana through Botswana?
Well, actually, I traveled from Botswana through South Africa to Lesotho.
Wonderful. Then you are. Then, in other words, you flew directly from where you are into Botswana, because
yes, and
yes.
I've been back so many times since then in South Africa and Botswana. So, and I understand exactly what you are saying, especially with regards to the education. When you look in South Africa today and you look at the young people, you can only feel, you know, how much has been lost. Especially you look at the youth, you see that they seem to have no idea about virtually anything. And, you know, a lot is happening that we need to work on. And I hope
that's why
that,
Botswana, sorry to interrupt you, that's why Botswana, it's like in Botswana, we've got our own kingdoms. So in all the kingdoms of Botswana, there are about there are the three chiefs that cause democracy in Botswana. Is the Hosi is Chief Khama, Seretse Khama, and then there's the chief of which is Seretse Khama is Bangwatu, is the elephant. That is where my originality comes from. And then the second one is Bangwatesi, which is the crocodile clan. Then you go to the third one, which is the Batokwa clan. So this in our community, even though they have democracy, they still have their chiefs and their kingdoms, and they respect. Even when, let's just say, when there's a wedding taking place, somebody's getting married, the kingdom is getting involved because those people are going to live within a community. So really, I'm very privileged and happy to see an elder that comes from Bechuan. It used to be called Bechuana land, the land of my ancestors, both maternal and paternal, which is now, which is Botswana. If you compare Pula to a rand, a Pula is stronger than a rand. When you have your ethics and values in place and you don't lose at who you are, then you are able to, you have put a platform for youth to not to forget their DNA. They are able to uphold the system, and they are easy to not to be manipulated. But in South Africa, which is diverse, it's diverse, and we are easily manipulated. We are in tears. My name is Dikeledi, and I'm saying I am crying. This kind of platform is the one that Africa needs, not only South Africa. For the African peer review mechanism within the African Union, this academy is needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor Ndile, I see his hand is up.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof.
We are going to wind up in about 5 minutes. So, you know, we've had a very wonderful time. Professor Ndile.
Thank you, Prof. Good evening to all the participants. I am grateful to be here. In fact, following the seminar today shows how much we have missed and how much I have missed in the past. In fact, thank you, Prof, for the seminar series, and I am grateful. I promise I will not miss any other one. I want to thank our presenter, Gideon. It's a wonderful paper. It's very educative, and we say kudos to you. And we hope that the organization, Prof, is going to do everything to circulate the paper, or if it has to be published, then we do some peer review and then we make it published. Otherwise, if it's a seminar paper, please, we would like to share in it. I'm currently at the University of Milan. I'm not in for 1 month, where I will be teaching on a topic, African material culture, spirituality in contact with modernity. And your seminar paper has just fallen in line with the things that I'll be saying to the students here in the University of Milan. Modernity, I think one of them was a serious issue which we need to deal with, like Prof was saying, is Christianity, and the kind of Christianity which we are getting today is even different from the Christianity of the early days of the missionaries. I have done some work on around my area. One of the panelists was saying that we should go a little bit local. I did some work on the interaction between the missionaries and our own local traditional religion. But in essence, I think the mainline Christians are even recognizing the value of African traditional religion. That's what they're talking about. I think today they're talking about enculturation and all that. But one of the serious things which we need to deal with, and I think Prof Tunde, you will see, if you, I'm sure your student who protested about symbolism is probably from the contemporary Pentecostal churches. I think this is a serious issue that we need to deal with these days, especially the Pentecostal churches, and how they have become so radical and fanatical and emotional with Christianity without even trying to look at where they come from. And this brings us back to the question of the issue that Ulrich raised on the need for us to undertake education. We would not only end with talking about our own African traditional religions. We should try to infuse it to even get a greater coefficient in our educational systems. In Cameroon, where I work with the teachers of religious studies, African traditional religion, most of the students don't answer those questions. They answer Christianity, 90%, and maybe 8% Islam. And you have find very few students who answer questions on African traditional religion, as they call it here. So it's important for us to get into educating the students about the values of African traditional religion, and like Prof mentioned, not just educating them about knowing it, but also seeing, making us be able to appropriate our religions as a means of solving our own problems. Many of us preach African traditional religions, but we don't believe in it. We don't believe in it. As it's only when we get to the point where we begin to even believe in it and even practice it. In fact, my wife is a staunch Christian, and when I begin to pour libation around my gate or around my entrance to the house, it becomes a serious problem. So I think that talking to my ancestors through libation, it's a way of solving my own problems, a way of protecting me anyway, but they don't see that. So I think when we begin to popularize these issues as much as possible, then that is where we begin to sustain its value. I just wanted to say that. Prof, thank you for the conference, for the seminar, and thank you, Gideon, for the paper.
Thank you so much. Yes. Is there any comment, you would like to make, our wonderful presenter? Or should I just round up and thank everybody?
Yeah, Prof, I actually thank you very much for this great opportunity. This is actually not my area of interest, but being part of this, I need to also get my curiosity cleared from my issue of this Christianity. I want to say all this while I have this crisis within me that in Christianity we have a conflict of, I don't know whether I should call it conflict in Christianity or conflict of belief system or what. But you don't have this conflict more in Muslim Christian, but more in Christians. And is there a way you can also, apart from this, your study, look at the crisis that take place in Christendom? Because presently, if you go to some social media where you have Christian dialogues or criticism, you find out the way they criticize themselves does not show that we have one Jesus Christ, per se. Then on the Muslim side, I have one different perception about this religion. You guys in religion can also help me to enlighten my knowledge on, you know, Abraham was told he's going to be father of many nations and all that. So Ishmael birth and the Isaac, Jacob birth. Do they have any synergy relationship to do with these Christian and Muslims? I know it will be a topic of another day, but if someone can bring a clarity to these things, I also want to go back to this traditional religion. These days I noticed these days I noticed from my own village, many people are going back to the tradition religion. Young boys of this present days, everybody are just raising up shrines that Christianity have failed them, that they want to serve the Father. In short, very close. So I don't know, there is conflict, there is crisis. When we talk about peace building and all that, it's like the conflict is more in the religion aspect. I don't know how you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ojukwu. I see General Shola Williams' hand up, but let me throw this in before that, because the questions which Dr. Ojukwu has raised are very huge issues which can take us, you know, a long time trying to unpack. But let me just give a proverb, which is a Yoruba proverb, which might help to illuminate whichever direction we want to go. And apology to my elders in the house. Yoruba would say, afẹ́fẹ́ ti fẹ́, àti rí fùrọ̀ ẹdìyẹ. In other words, all the, you know, how do I translate that now? The ways in which things seem to have been presented, you know, it's all getting unraveled. Most of the hidden things the obscurities are, you know, getting unraveled so that everybody can see, you know, the intent of all these people. General Williams, over to you, sir. Can you unmute?
Yes, I'm on mute. Can you hear me?
Oh, I think you have two systems running hand in hand. We can see you on two, which means that we are having.
Hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah. Very quickly, what I want to say is this: there's no conflict between other religions and traditional religion. There's competition and rivalry. And the rivalry also exists between the Pentecostalists and the Catholic Church. Okay? And when you look at it, is the economy of religion that is at play. The Babalawos or the indigenous religion clerics are also looking for money. Therefore, they have to find a way to convince those who are coming to them that they are better than the Pentecostalists, the Catholics, and everything, in giving them what they want or what they come there for. The second point I want to make is this: is that just like you have in Christianity, you also have competition and rivalry between the practitioners and the clerics of indigenous religion. Okay, and there's no unity amongst them in being able to have a common doctrine like the Christians and the Muslims have, which has resulted in having a holy book, the Bible, and the Quran. That does not exist in it. So no matter the culture and rivalry you have within the Christian church and you Muslim, they all hold on to the common doctrine. the common Bible, the common Quran. The third point also is this, is that which we are missing, and that is, if you go to universities and institutions, you have various centers, institutes for studies and research into the various areas of Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and so on. There's not a single institute or center for the study of indigenous religion. I did see one for Indian religion at the University of Georgia. And one of the reasons I went there is to convince the Nigerian who is teaching indigenous religion in the Department of Religious Studies the possibility of starting a lab, just like the one for the Indian indigenous religion. It just couldn't make it. So there's no single lab in the world, or no single center, or no single institute in any part of the world on indigenous religion, except for the Hindus and the Buddhists and things like that. You have a lot of centers, even in the United States. The last point I also want to make is this, is that, say, if I'm a pastor or a professor of Christian religion in any area, or Judaism and things like that, there are foundations in the United States that can give me $1 million to do research. Nobody will give you $1 to do any research or study in indigenous religion, especially the African one. And what's also interesting in this is that the dominant one, which is the Yoruba religion, for example, the Yorubas themselves are not serious in the study and research of it, because there's no institution for training clerics except to do apprenticeship under Babalawo and things like that. And we are sort of bastardized this by the young people who go to these clerics to make money because they want some sort of magic so that they can become rich very quickly. And that has created all sorts of crime. One can go into, it's a whole seminar paper on its own that seriously we need to look at. And if indigenous religion, like one professor predicted, that in the next 20, 25, 15 years, indigenous religion will take Christianity. If those who are practicing it, and last point I want to make is this, is that churches and synagogues and things like that is not for indigenous religion. Indigenous religion is supposed to be practiced in a natural environment, forest, and that's why they call them shrines. Today, some people say they want to build temples. No. If you want to build something for indigenous religion, it should be an environment that is very, very close to nature. And what you just need is a design that will protect people and practitioners from the inclement weather. Let me stop here. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for taking some time.
Thank you so much, General Williams. Yes, I don't know if Madam Bello wanted to say anything. I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank Madam Bello for the work that she does. Panafstrag, which is our back room powerhouse that assists with everything. I want to thank the executive of Academy of African Indigenous Religions, Theology and Arts. I want to thank all our presenter, Mr. Gideon Simon Gajiga. The linguists pronounced it Gajiha, I don't know if that is the correct pronunciation or not. I don't want to offend anyone. I believe that he has done a very good job of that very profound paper that he has presented. We're going to have another paper presentation in November. We will skip December because usually our seminars usually come up about the third or the last week in the month. And that will fall within the festivities of our friends and family in the Christian tradition. We would then pick up again in January. I want to appreciate my sister Wally Monts, who spoke very eloquently about the situation, the division of various African countries, the partitioning of various people into different countries is a very serious issue with religious implications, because what she just spoke to about how the Setswana people, the Kalanga, the Soto, and the various other groups of people were divided among the various countries in the Central, South, and East African countries is something just very similar to that of my friend. Let me see if Professor Logan is still here. Professor Logan, comes from a particular place in Ghana or Togo. I think it's Togo, which is divided. His family land is divided between Ghana and Togo, and he speaks French and English. So, and I believe he also has the passport of both countries. So that is what the white man has done to us, Thank you, Professor Logan. You've been here with us, throughout. We hope you will make a presentation. Mr. Balogun,
Thank you, Prof.
Professor Fashiku, we can see you. We see all our colleagues, Dr. Sadiq Maureen. I think he's just joining. Thank you. And Professor Oluwaseun, Rachel, I want to thank everybody for such a wonderful day.
You need to keep thanking God.
It's been raining very heavily here for quite a while, but I'm happy that we've been able to have a very successful seminar over the last 2 hours.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you,
wants
Prof.
to make any comment? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Prof, we'll talk very soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you, everybody.
Yes, we are good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Please check your email.